Hey, what's up, senders? Welcome back to another live stream, another podcast, episode 42 with the guys from Wrench and Roll. Ladies and gentlemen, Matt and Morgan are here with us tonight. What's up, boys?
How's it going, everybody?
Yes, this is awesome. I've been looking forward to this because I've been hearing a lot of great chatter out there on the trails, just talking to other mountain bikers, and everyone is so impressed and so happy that Wrench and Roll has its services out here in our local area and beyond. So I really wanted you guys to be on the show because the show is about people that are moving from the ordinary to the extraordinary, and you guys are definitely doing that. You guys, from what I understand, used to work for other people or employed and then broke out on your own. So definitely want to dig into that. But first of all, just wanted to shout out to the people that I see already in the audience. We got Timothy Haley out there. What's up, Tim? Thank you for joining us. Glad you got the refreshments, which is great. Also, good job at Greer this morning, Timothy Haley. He actually drove all the way down from the Santa Clarita area to join me for a pre-sunup ride at Greer. So good hustle, Tim. Good hustle on that. Rich on Two Wheels is out here in the audience today. He is the GM for a company called DAINESE, who's getting into the mountain bike scene for protective gear and all mountain bike gear. And he just recently had surgery from a mountain bike injury. So welcome aboard, Rich. Thank you for being here. Straight Line MTB Boys says, yeah, boy. They are on the line. Check this out. Oh, the segment was here. Starting in a few minutes. We are starting now. So, guys, let's just jump into it. Wrench and Roll, Matt and Morgan, how did you guys come up with the concept, and how long have you guys been in business?
Yes, so Wrench and Roll kicked off December 2020. So we are just tapping into month 9. We're super stoked. The concept started a little bit bigger. Started in Morgan's kitchen for a couple months. Me going over there. He's pretty handy behind the stove. So I was on the other side. A lot of conversation, kicking around about what we wanted to do. We peeled it back from some bigger stuff, and decided that we could do it the way we're doing it now, with a van and a garage, essentially. And so that's kind of how it the short of it, right? Certainly we can go into a bit more details there, but
we saw a fundamental gap in what bicycle service was currently, and with the rising popularity of services like DoorDash and things like that, we kind of sat back and said, why not for mountain bikes too? People love convenience, and the service industry is firing right now. So if we could combine those two things and roll that into something that we're passionate about and have been for decades now, it seemed like a sure thing. Just
such a great idea. To be able to take your passion and make it into your living is always key. And you tuned into the customer service point. A lot of people out there, when they go to get their bike fixed somewhere, a lot of times they just don't know where to go or who to trust, and they start to develop a relationship, hopefully with somebody who's good. But it sounds like you guys came from that aspect. Were you guys in the industry before you started Wrench and Roll?
Yeah, we both were. Myself, my bike story within the industry started back east. I moved here, grew up in Connecticut, moved here from Vermont. Back in Vermont, I got a job at a shop, super green, renting on a rental fleet of some pretty crappy bikes. But there was a great tech there, learned a lot. They were an intense dealer, which was a big reason why I landed out here. I worked at Jack's in Marietta for a few years, and then I spent about 5 years with Jensen USA between their Corona store and the Riverside location. So yeah, that's where I was before.
Wow. And then were you one of Jensen's main mechanics over there? Is that what you were doing, working on the bikes and helping them keep those things coming in and getting out good?
Yeah, I started in the Corona store as a mechanic, service writer, really good crew over there. And then I was a service manager, moved up to that, which moved me into the Riverside location. From there, I was managing their bike build team, which is a phenomenal team. They ship, a ton of bikes. And then also was managing the retail locations from there. So had a pretty big team beneath me. I did a lot of tech training, which was rad, and was able to teach that to a lot of good folks. So that's what I was doing. So a lot of wrenching, a lot of communication with other service teams within the industry. So
Wow, sounds like a great background. So you kind of have a good grasp from the whole perspective of the mountain bike, from it coming in to somebody buying it to taking care of it, like the whole 9 yards. You have your good angle around what that looks like. And then Morgan, how about you? Where was your background in mountain biking from?
My story is pretty similar to, I think, a lot of other kids. I got my first shop job when I was 15 on summer break to try to prove to my folks that I was responsible, or whatever it happened to be, and then bounced around to a couple other smaller local shops. I grew up in the Bay Area, so ended up managing a specialized concept store in Morgan Hill for a little bit. Ended up down here, Southern California, actually at Jensen USA as well, not on the service aspect, but on the sales side in the gear advisor department. That's where Matt and I met. So we developed our friendship. It was the afternoon laps, those lunch laps, all that fun stuff. And
the best.
There's really where that
absolutely, backyard bottle shop. But it's been super fun. And then from Jensen, I went over to Intense. Spent a couple great years over at Intense, which was super rad. Met a lot of really good people. Learned a ton. And this idea of service-only bike shop, like no bike sales, had been kicking around in my head for the better part of the last decade. So in one of those aforementioned dinner meetings, right, with Matt, I planted that seed. And after couldn't tell you how many conversations, he just turned to me one day on a ride and said, "So service-only shop, is that a real possibility?" And I said, yeah. And I'm like a lot of other folks, I'm very particular about who touches my bike, right? You find a good mechanic, you want to stick to them like glue. And up in the Bay Area, I had my guys. I knew who they were. And kind of when I relocated, I was sort of at a loss. And when I met Matt, saw the quality of work that he was doing, it just kind of made sense. So he's been my guy. He's been my race team's mechanic for a couple years previously before we started this whole thing. And it just the stars aligned. It was the right time, and we just set out on a course.
Wow, I love it. So it's December 2020. The pandemic is just kicking off, right? So it's not quite there yet, but we're getting ready to rev up for that. And was it a combination of wanting to do your own thing, seeing that gap in the market, saying like there's got to be this need that we can fill for people who maybe don't want to buy bikes but just have a great service oriented repair type of shop? Was that the biggest draw for you guys in December back then?
Yeah, that was a big one. Truly, I would say the biggest draw, the biggest thing was the passion to do it, the passion to do something differently than, at least speaking for myself, than I was doing in that role. That role limited kind of like a community element, and to be like face to face within the community, touching riders. I was in a great role, but kind of behind the scenes, right? So seeing that opportunity, truly missing like the day in and day out wrenching. I love it. I live for it. So I wanted to do it, and definitely, the stars kind of aligned with the COVID rush and all of that, knowing shops, their turnaround time, and what we could potentially do, working off our own schedule, our own hours. Saw that opportunity, but truly I think it was passion driven, and we try to keep that in the forefront of a lot of decisions so far that we've been making, and continue to, remind ourselves of like why we're doing it. And we're having so much fun doing it, connecting with all kinds of folks at events, and the door-to-door method truly allows that face-to-face interaction, that one-on-one experience that can be challenging to get in your traditional, retail store, which again, we both have experience in. So, yeah.
That's cool. That's really cool. And the fact that it's you guys, it is awesome, and that you have a passion for it. And I love the whole door to door aspect that if it's, I could say for the bike shop that I take my bike to, sometimes when it's not the mechanic that I'm used to working with and it's somebody else that I don't have a relationship with, it's automatically like, I'm kind of on my heels, like, oh, wait a minute, where's the guy? Where's the other guy? But I love the fact that you guys are customer service oriented like that, and you're in the community. And it's true, I've seen you guys at events. I just saw you guys at Snow Valley for the Transcend ride. I saw you guys at the Big Bear races for the enduro races at Velocity. And it's just cool to see that you guys are mixing it with everybody and getting to know everybody. It's really, truly awesome.
Yeah. As well as we try to get between the tape sometimes ourselves, which keeps it fun. We had a blast with the Enduro series doing that, in between stages, doing some wrenching before heading back up. So
awesome. Got to get those laps in. That's why you guys are in it, right? It's so cool.
Absolutely.
So we tell ourselves.
Absolutely.
Yeah. We got a couple comments here. I want to make sure we grab. Rich on Two Wheels says, let's get this party started. MTB Rad Dad is in the house, and he says, we got Octodad, MTB, Marty, Joey Richards, tuning in all the way from New Zealand is on the line. What's up, Marty? Good to see you.
That's rad.
He says, backyard mechanics rule, especially if they have a van. Octodad's also asking, so good to fix your bike with people you trust instead of a bike shop that is always trying to sell you more stuff. And question here from MTB Rad Dad out in the Coachella Valley. He says, do you carry products still? I imagine you need to stock parts and stuff, but he says, I also understand no bike sales.
For sure. Yeah, we absolutely stock parts. We've got great relationships with some of the industry's best people. We've got accounts with all the major suspension manufacturers. We're set up for authorized dealers there. P&W, Spank, Synthesis.
Factor. This goes on.
I know we're missing a ton of people. It's like an acceptance speech. There's so many people we want to thank, right? But yes, to answer your question, we absolutely stock parts, and given the current climate, we do the best we can to keep those in stock. TRP, another solid brand partner of ours for sure. So
we have your basic replacement parts. We do our best to keep those in stock too, as far as like brake pads across the board. Chains have been like if you could find chains, it's a little honey hole, but we're doing our best to keep stuff like that, bottom brackets, some of the basics, suspension seal kits. We try to keep a lot. See, potentially the next question up is if we do service suspension, and we definitely do. There's some limitations right now, kind of our timing of launching Wrench and Roll and where the industry was via inventory. There's some proprietary tools and whatnot out there that we have on back order, but are headed our way soon. So certainly reach out. But yeah, I did 2 forks today and a shock, so we do quite a bit daily.
Nice. Too, so. That's awesome. And as far as your guys' history with wrenching for racers, race team, and yourselves, if somebody were to come in, I know that the outsider MTB, Tony Da Silva, just went to a place and got his suspension dialed in for his riding, like knowing how many clicks on the blue, how many clicks on the red, front and back. Would you also be able to dial in somebody that way as well?
Yeah, totally. So a lot of that comes with time, repetition, kind of like testing different settings. Every rider has different preferences. Every track, there's some differences there. That's the beauty of factory race support, right? For some of these riders out there. But yeah, absolutely. And, not only can we help with that setup, but, part of our vision is education. So truly those one-on-one experiences, we want you to know that red knob does and that blue knob does, and what each direction, and truly talk through adjustments. We should be making adjustments with purpose. And, so we want you to understand all that. And again, we are out there riding a lot. So I have folks, up at Big Bear, taking some laps, cruise by, ask some questions, give some suggestions. And that's one of the best things to do is every lap, tinker a little bit. And but yeah, totally something we help out with. Basics of setup, Yeah.
Awesome. That's awesome. So good. Yeah, that's that customer service too. And the fact that you guys are actually out there riding amongst us is great, that we can approach you guys and ask questions. We have Straight Line MTB here. It says, I need to drop off my bike. So there you go.
Let us know when.
Straight Line MTB. We have the number down below. You can actually text the Wrench and Roll boys there, Matt and Morgan, and they can text you back, or hit them up on Instagram at wrench_and_roll. Straight Line also says, when our bikes need tuning, we just sell it and bring in a new one for review. Shred MTV says, great service by these guys. Highly recommend. There you go. That's a testimony. Yeah. So Shred MTV, you must have had them in. I also, just one of my close friends, Jeff, was down in San Diego, said he had service by you guys and was just amazed by the service. So you guys are doing a lot of great things, man. Great things. Straight Line MTB says, what is the most common service repair you guys do?
Bleed a lot of brakes of various flavors, right? Your SRAM, Shimano, TRP, Hopes. So we do a lot of that. I would say if we look back at the books, we do our Pro Tune, which is like a full teardown, brake bleed included, hubs, pretty much touch everything, hard reset there. That's, I think, our number one sold package. And with that is the brakes. So I think a lot of brakes.
A lot of brakes. A lot of
forks, too.
A lot of suspension, I was going to say. Yeah, it's I don't think either of us really went into this expecting such a large volume of suspension questions, right? And seeing the need for all of those services. And we were talking about this earlier, the sort of asking ourselves these questions to kind of prepare. And I think a basic fork service would be a close second, I've got to think, to the Pro Tune, just because most people will see some pretty drastic benefits just from a lower service, truly. And we've gotten a lot of positive feedback. Even just the one today, our guy said, hey, my fork felt like it had a hard stop out halfway through the travel, and now she's smooth. So it's one of those things where I think the suspension service is definitely pretty high up there too.
Yeah, I can imagine. There's so many different clicks and trail styles. I mean, if you could learn how to dial that in, that would make life so much better to be able to cruise through. I mean, some of the trails at Greer, I know with the chunk and everything, it feels like, if you don't have that dialed in, that would be really important to have the suspension dialed in on that. Timothy Haley is asking you guys, what is your area of operation? So basically, like, what's your scope when you're out there in the field? Who can you service?
Sure. So we have sort of an unofficial, semi-official 15-mile radius from where we wrench out of. So figure basically Canyon Lake down to Pachenga, sort of around there. We have met some folks from further out of town. We get a lot of people, like you mentioned, coming up from North County, San Diego, meeting us in South Temecula. We'll do pickups there and then kind of bring it back to the shop, things like that. So we're pretty local, but it seems to be working pretty well for us so far.
Yeah, I'm sure you guys have been pretty busy with everything going on right now. A lot of people are having a hard time buying bikes. So there's so many bikes out there that need attention and service. I went to a bike shop to see about getting something done on my bike a couple weeks back, and it was like I think the appointment time was 2 weeks out before I could even bring it in. So what do you guys look like right now as far as operations getting in there?
We're pretty quick. We tried to focus on quick turns as a differentiator from our services from some of the traditional brick and mortar shops. So I think most bikes come in and leave within a 48 to 72 hour period.
Holy cow.
Sometimes with the suspension, we'll get into something and notice something that was damaged, like a basic service turns into a full damper shaft replacement, something like that. Then that's a quick call to the boys at the service department at the respective suspension company to order those parts. And so that can kind of prolong some stuff, but we're pretty quick.
And truly, that could even be just within contacting us. If we can schedule appropriately, like we had a gentleman today come down from Chino Hills area, which is a haul, and we had it scheduled. So he kicked it around town, went to a coffee shop for 2 hours while his scheduled service was done. So that was a same day turnaround for him. He only contacted us about 2 days ago. So that's an opportunity too, especially if there's, like, as Morgan was saying, no parts that we need to order, or again, if we can plan it in advance, right? If there's something that we can maybe schedule for a week out, it could be, same day, next day. Truly, our goal is to move them out pretty quick. So,
that's very cool. Yeah, and you guys have the flexibility. You guys are in the field, so to speak, out there with us. You can pick up at certain locations, pick up at Greer, pick up at, Velocity, wherever.
We just brought a bike home from Big Bear this past weekend from the Gravity Fest. So, pick it up at the Temecula race this weekend.
Dang. Dang, that is very cool and unique. Otherwise you have to take it to the bike shop, and sometimes with your schedules, if they're busy, you may not be able to make it there until the weekend. But the weekend's when you want to ride for a lot of us. So it's nice to be able to call you guys and say, hey, can you come pick her up? She needs some help.
Absolutely.
Which is cool. That's very cool. MTB Brad Dez says, I'm terrible on remembering hours and dates for keeping track of my lower leg services. So any reminders on that? Like, how often should they be servicing that? And is there a way to remember?
Yeah, manufacturer recommended service intervals for most forks is going to be roughly 50 hours. I'd say the best way to keep track of that, if you track your rides through something like a Garmin or a Strava, kind of just take a look, maybe even just take an average ride and then count down rides. I've even snagged one of those oil change stickers that they have for you now at AutoZone, and just put that on my lower leg, stuck it on with a little date on it. That was pretty helpful for me. But yeah, it's tough to keep track of. I think most of the forks we see are pretty far past that recommended 50-hour interval.
Yeah, and truly it depends on how much you're riding it, right? A brand new fork that sits is gonna need different service intervals. But yeah, I would say it's something for your avid rider, even avid weekend rider in SoCal. It's super hot and dry, right? Probably think about a basic service every 4 to 6 months, depending on your riding, right? So if you can, and you notice a difference, and a lot of folks who maybe haven't experienced a fork service, it's hard to truly know, but every 6 months, if you did it, your fork is going to feel significantly better. Your hands will hurt less, I promise. And yeah.
Nice. No, that's a good way. So that's good. Yeah. MTV Radez said that is smart. And the stickers, that's cool that they have that. Might as well get into the questions, because people were firing away questions. And folks, if you're on the line, continue to fire them off. And if there's anything that they can help you with here, Matt and Morgan would be happy to. And if not, they're also they can also come pick up your bike. So Matt and Morgan, let's get into some of the questions that we got on the IG. First one we have is from Brennan, Brennan. Brennan says, washing bikes, biggest mistakes. What would you guys say to somebody who wants to wash their bike at home? Something they should stay away with, the biggest mistakes.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. So the hose, stay away from the hose. It's a misconception for sure. You see it a lot on like Pink Bike and after World Cup races, right? Everyone's hosing down their bike. What most folks don't see is these World Cup mechanics completely tearing down this bike after it gets hosed down, right? Checking all the bearings, replacing the bearings, greasing, getting all that water out of there. The components are waterproof. The bearings are sealed, right? They can't handle moisture and getting wet. But spraying a bike down, it's going to push water in places we might not want it. If it's not dried appropriately, water is going to sit. Brennan, who asked this question, we recently had his downhill bike in here. His lower pivot had a whole bunch of like corrosion and rust kind of starting to build up. That's a low spot on the bike, which truly just holds the water. Even the light mist, a lot of folks will say, right, well, I just give it a light mist and then hit it with the rag. It's certainly better than the power washer, but the encouragement is to spray your rag down with whatever cleaning product you're using. If it's just from, something simple like Simple Green or whatever product you choose to use, there's a ton out there. Spray the rag. I'm all about the flossing technique. Those who follow us on Instagram know that. Get in there, take your time. If it's super muddy, let the bike dry, and then knock the dirt off as dust right the next day. You can't tell I'm pretty passionate about this topic.
Dude, Matt, I had no clue. I've been using the everybody's told me from other writers is like, use the mist, don't use high pressure, use the mist, soap and water or muck off or any one of those things. And then I've been drying it off with a leaf blower. So you're probably cringing, right?
Yeah, I mean, like we're just putting places that they shouldn't, right? We're pushing grease out, water in, and it certainly keeps us busy. So keep hosing your bikes, y'all. Bearings are going to need service. Bearings do not like water. Again, if you hose your bike and then you take it completely apart, and then you're all good, hose away. It's probably like the biggest thing. And then treat your brake rotors like you're like baby, right? Move them away from any kind of overspray. Keep those things super clean. Clean them with alcohol only. I'm pretty religious about brake rotor cleaning. So those are my two, I think, biggest. I remember what the question was.
Yeah, that was great. No, Brandon was asking, washing bikes, biggest mistakes. How many of us out there, chime it in, you guys, put it in the comments. How many of you guys are like me and use the hose? I will not be using the hose anymore. I'm right here. I had no clue. That is awesome. That's great information. Shred MTB is asking, will you be bringing on a bike manufacturer anytime soon?
So probably not. Given the current setup with the door-to-door, to take on an inventory position that most manufacturers are going to require to open an account, even with low buy-ins like 3 to 4 bikes, we truly just don't have a place to keep them. And above all that, the service-centric aspect of our business is truly what we wanted to focus on, to be able to continue to provide sort of that unbiased.
Like if you have bikes, you have to sell bikes, and it's a lot of overhead, so makes folks hungry to sell those. We want to sell service. We want your used bike or new bike to just feel super good, and we maybe get involved with some manufacturers for some service opportunities and small parts. We definitely can help out there. We do have some really good relationships with folks. Service is the mission.
Number one. So no bike manufacturers anytime soon, other than any kind of service related items that you guys may need for those. Thomas Harper is also, like me, one of the folks that uses the hose. We'll no longer be using the hose thanks to your guys' knowledge on that. MTB Rad's asking, what about shower mode?
Any mode. It doesn't matter what mode.
Just that the water gets in everywhere. So if we can avoid,
I would avoid it. Truly, try. If you're listening, try what I'm recommending. If it's super muddy, let it dry. Knock it off with a brush. Give yourself a little brush set. The flossing technique. Again, it is sealed stuff, so you're not going to push the dirt in, but water can work its way in easier. So I would stay away from it for sure.
That's good. And then and spray the rag down to where it's damp. I mean, you don't want it so soaked that it's depositing moisture on the bike, right? You want to be able to just have it damp enough to where you can wipe the bike down.
Yeah, I mean, so with pads removed and wheels aside, I'll certainly in some cases spray bike down, right? Direct spray of whatever cleaning product I'm using, but then that's followed up quickly by a microfiber rag getting in there. I mean, there's a confidence level, of course, of being able to get in there and expose those bearings if I feel like it's necessary. Mm-hmm. Right. So,
That's great. Yeah, this is a big topic. A lot of the folks are chiming in on this one. Octodad out in New Zealand says, How about hose low pressure? If muddy, use bike wash and then bounce dry and towel. What about that technique?
Same answer, truly. Again, the least amount of pressure, the least amount of water, the better. So however that works for you. If it's a quick, immediate, you have to clean it before bringing it in the house type situation, again, understood. I would say truly then just your service intervals of full teardown are increased, right? You just want to make sure they're getting a little bit more attention. Your bike might start getting a little noisier sooner than someone who might not hose it. You might need to replace your frame bearings sooner than someone who might not to. Those are very little things over time that are going to wear. But ultimately, right, if we're trying to achieve like the best performance or optimal performance for these high-end stuff that we purchase and ride, I'd keep water away from them.
That's good. That's great. Yeah, I think Timothy Haley is going to be similar. He says he's plugging them. He says muck off waterless wash works well, if not super covered in mud. So there you go, guys. If you guys want to use that without the water, muck off waterless wash works. Right on. Thank you, Tim. And then going to head over to more of the questions for you guys. So that was from Brennan. And then Matt and Morgan, let's see. The way that my printer printed it out is kind of funky, so I'm just reading off my phone. Okay, Rich on Two Wheels asked what's the furthest you'll travel to service a bike. So basically, we answered that one. That's south of Temecula on up to Canyon Lake, basically. But if you want to travel into the area, you guys can travel into the area, ride Greer or ride Velocity, and then have the boys here pick it up. It sounds like for service, if it's scheduled, it could potentially even be the same day turnaround after a cup of coffee or some lunch. Yep. What about, so say there are guys that are out of the area, but because of the vibe from the wrench and roll and the community talking so highly on wrench and roll, would you ever consider doing a DIY online for somebody to help them through it for a nominal service or nominal fee?
I think that's in line with the educational component that we were hoping to build in to the business when the initial conversations started happening. We're already having similar conversations with some local groups to kind of host sort of a group night kind of a thing where they can bring a couple service related questions and we can perform the services in front of them so that they can get the one-on-one in the moment kind of hands-on experience and ask all the questions and have us get the real-time answers to them.
Yeah, truly, I think it's more likely for us to go that route. Certainly the world it is now with the virus, COVID, and whatever. We'll have to, if we do in-person training with the bike tech stuff, there's a ton of value there. Certainly, we do have great video guy asset, so it's a possibility to put some of that stuff up online.
Yeah, that's cool. I mean, if you guys are outside the area, give Matt and Morgan a call and maybe take it one-on-one and see what they say, but potentially they might be able to walk you through the fix there for a totally. Yeah, it's something that I'm thinking about. Okay, have a question from Octodad. Matt and Morgan, he says, what do the bros think about shock lube?
Like externally, like stanchion and lubricant?
I'm assuming that's what he's talking about. Marty, let us know if you're talking about outside for lubricant on the shock. And while he's putting that in, Morgan, we talked about this question earlier. So the Bike Rider app is asking a question about tires. He's asking, are baguettes the new Cush core? And we got a response from Marty as well.
Yeah, man, I think that's Common Sol's secret, right? Those guys keep crossing the finish line first. So if that's working for them, then more power to them. So yeah, who's to say?
Right. So it could be baguettes in those wheels.
Absolutely.
Do you guys have a preference when it comes to, or maybe, I mean, that's not a fair question to ask you guys, but what do you guys most commonly see in the wheels? Do you guys see Cush core or something else, or just a variety of inserts?
We have seen a variety. We definitely see the most Cush core. We see a lot of it, truly. We've definitely worked on our technique quite a bit, tried a whole bunch of different techniques that are out there. We feel pretty good about ours, and But yeah, it's certainly not my favorite thing to wrench on, but we make it happen.
Nice. I've seen videos of people throwing their tires across the garage.
Yeah, there's some tough ones out there.
Yeah.
If the stars align, DH casing, carbon wheel, cush core. Yeah, there's but fun stuff.
So Marty from New Zealand says, yes. What do you guys think? What do you bros think about shock lube for external? He says, yeah, that was his question.
So in theory, your shock is sealed, right? So putting lubricant on your stanchions, either your shock or your fork, if that is getting inside your fork to lubricate something, in my opinion, there's a bigger issue of letting the lubricant in there, right? There's some tricks out there, run a zip tie between the seal and the stanchion and drip some in there. Yes, I see value in that. I think that could help, right? If you totally can't, make a fork service happen by dropping the lowers, even if you're not replacing the seals, you can drop the lowers and put some slick honey in there. That's going to be the best bet. It certainly in a pinch, it could work. It's better than nothing, I suppose. Mm-hmm. But yeah, suspension should be sealed. Shouldn't let anything inside.
Gotcha. So not so much the need for the shock lube. Everything's going to be on the inside. Just keep those stanchions wiped down and clean, I guess.
Yeah.
Shred MTV says Matt loves his cush core.
Yeah.
So I'm going to go to another question here. This one's from the Trail Dogs. What's up, Trail Dogs? Thank you guys for being on. I appreciate you guys always. Trail Dog says, what do the guys that work there ride, and where do you guys like to ride?
You want to go first?
Yeah. So I was reading. The first one was, what do we ride?
Yeah.
Cool. Yeah. So I'd say my main, well, I guess it depends on the time of year, but my trail bike is an Intense Primer. My park bike is a Banshee Dark Side. And then I have a dirt jumper, the orange thing behind me. That's a Chromag Monk.
Dang.
Yeah. I try to have one of everything in check off all the boxes. So there's a couple missing there, right?
Matt's got the quiver though. Still a good quiver. Jeez Louise.
Try.
Okay. And then how about you? Where do you like to ride?
Yeah, so Greer's our backyard, of course. We ride a lot at Greer. I've been pretty lazy in the summer. I spend most of my time up at Big Bear. Ranch Monday through Friday, and then you can find me getting chairlift laps pretty much every weekend that there's not a race. And then we had a blast at Vail. Got passes, both of us, this year. So the trail work that's been going on over there has been super exciting. So those are, and then I am at the pump track when it's not 100 degrees quite often. So those are my spots.
We're so lucky. Man, we're so lucky. We have so much good stuff around here, the Muriel area. And I think somebody told me that EC was hired on at Vail, and that's been a lot of the great work that we've been seeing out there. Because I feel like every time I go out to Velocity, there's a new trail, North Shore, Fat Tire, like all kinds of stuff that's going on out there. It's so cool.
Super cool. Eric's doing a good job.
He is. Yeah, absolutely. So
currently,
my trail bike's a Rocky Mountain Instinct. I've got it tastefully upgraded with some bits and bobs from some other folks out there, so not quite stock. I've got a Haro Steel Reserve again that we upgraded for my dirt jumper when Matt bullies me into riding the pump track with him.
Temecula pump track.
And then I don't have a park bike currently, but the other bikes in the stable, I've got Specialized Crux to do gravel duty on. And then I've got my old trusty 20-inch BMX race bike that I kind of grew up racing that I can't get rid of. And that's a standard 125R.
Wow. You guys, there you go. And then as far as trails, Morgan, where do you like to take those steeds when you have time?
Yeah, it's the same thing. It's winter laps at Vail and Greer. Summertime, again, you'll see me in Big Bear a few times, not quite as often as Matt. But the other really cool thing with the pump track is they just put in that little Grom track so I can take my son. He's 5. and he likes to shred his bike out there too. So that's those are my park laps, right?
Yeah.
That's cool. That's cool. Yeah. For those of you who are in the Murrieta, Temecula area or coming out here to visit and you have your Grom, the Temecula Pump Track has a little Grom track that's literally 50 yards away from the main one. And the kids have such a good time. They've done such a great job with that track. So much fun. MTB Rad Dad is saying, I think Marty is talking about the WPL shock lube stuff. Going back to that shock lube question.
Yeah.
So the stanchion lube, I used to field a lot of questions in my prior role and things like that, and I suppose it could make a difference, right? I mean, somebody somewhere in a lab feels like it does strongly enough, at least to come to market with that product, kind of a thing. But my guess is that if I blindfolded you and sent you down distortion once without any shock lube, and then did it again with it, gave you the old school Pepsi challenge, you probably wouldn't be able to feel the difference, right? So
Yeah.
I think.
Yeah, I think truly I think the WPL stuff probably helps keep it cleaner, right? And that's an important part of your stanchions, right? The cleaner it is, the less stuff go in there. Yeah, totally, maybe a little bit of placebo. But yeah, anything that can help keep it cleaner, I think helps. That you potentially a little bit extra lubricant on your stanchions, it actually might attract some dirt and grime, right? It kind of creates a bit of a sticky surface, but then it does make it easier to kind of wipe it all off from. Yeah, again, it could help. Those seals really shouldn't let too much inside of it, though. That is their job, is to keep a tight seal. So we neither of us have any experience with it. Again, we're spoiled. We have the shop, so if my fork feels sticky, I'm dropping lowers a bit more frequently than most. So
Yeah, that makes sense. And that's great. Scouts Out is on the Central Coast out there. What's up, buddy? Good to see you. Thanks for being on. Scouts Out says maybe at least keep the seals from drying out is what he was thinking on that. Do you think that will have any effect on the seals?
Again, it could if it gets in there. Sure.
Yeah.
Nice.
Popping one here for you guys. Cheers. Cheers, boys. Salute. This might be a good time to plug. We were going to try to do this podcast, everybody, from a brewery. Matt and Morgan were talking about possibly doing it there. They have a buddy that works at a brewery, but maybe we can do an after ride brewery visit someday. So you guys want to give that brewery a plug, go ahead, because they must have some good brew over there. I got to check it out.
Yeah, we were going to do it at the Backyard Bottle Shop. It's just a tap room over there in Murrieta. They have a cool little room where we were talking about maybe getting to do this in. But yeah, definitely it'd be fun to set up a meet and greet post ride or something like that there. That'd be good stuff.
That would be. That's a good idea. Maybe comment on this when you guys if you guys are watching this live, or even afterwards on iTunes or Spotify. Let us know. Maybe we could even do like you said, a meet and greet there at that brewery, or have you guys give a talk on something like some kind of suspension basics for education. That would be very cool too. Going back to some of the questions here, let's see. MTB Rad Dad says, what is your favorite tool? And maybe we could take that one out even further. What tools should each of us mountain bikers have in the garage?
Oh, that's a good one. Okay, so I have a couple answers that came to mind, and I thought I was prepared for this. So the derailleur alignment gauge, the part tool gag, right? So that aligns the derailleur hanger. Nearly every bike that comes through the shop, or especially the booth on race day, has a bent derailleur hanger. So I use that tool on almost every single bike. I couldn't make things shift like they do without that, truly. So I use that a ton. It's definitely a little bit of black magic. You definitely have to snap a couple derailleur hangers in your time to kind of know the fine limit there. But yeah, that's got to be one of the most used. And then I would say a close second, just a notable mention here, is when I lace wheels, I have just like a pre-bent spoke that I did with a crimped nipple on there and a little nipple driver to build wheels. I take pride in my my spoke tools.
Nice. How about you, Morgan? What would you say to that question?
The knife in the kitchen.
Man, so yeah, my favorite tool is probably my phone, so I can text Matt and let him know my bike's not running right, and that he needs to get over to the shop ASAP so that I don't look like a scrub on the trails. No, I think
keep shifting on me. It keeps shifting.
Yeah, the tool that I use the most, like for the in the field quick adjustments, like lever adjustments on pickup or drop off, stuff like that. Just a good old fashioned park tool 3-way of the various sizes, right? And that we keep a full set in the van door at all times. Matt's car's probably got 3 sets in it. But in a pinch, I think is something everybody should have truly as a multi-tool, whether it's like a one-up tool in your steer tube or something just in your backpack. Like just having one of those things can help you out in a pinch, preferably one with a chain breaker on it. I think would be my recommendation.
Yeah, that's great, man. So I used to ride a stump jumper and it had a SWAT box on it. So and my bottle cage had the little holder for the multi-use tool. I'm on a YT Jeff C now and I don't have that SWAT box. So I'm thinking about is it the one up that has the hiding spot in the stem?
Yeah, so I'm a big fan of the EDC Lite tool. It's a pretty minimalist tool. If that checks all your boxes, what you're looking for, it still utilizes a star nut, which in my opinion is the most secure system out there. There's some good ones, some good alternatives, but in my opinion, nothing beats the good old star nut. So the one-up EDC Lite tool, have it in my bike, my trail bike. And I dig it. I think it's super solid. Doesn't loosen up or anything. So
nice. I'll have to check that EDC Lite. I'll have to check that out. I was at Summit and I thought my derailleur was bent because it was shifting. My bike was shifting. Turns out that the back axle got loose, and so I didn't have anything. I had to go ask somebody if I could just have a simple Allen wrench to tighten that back wheel down. So it made me think I got to start getting something like that for the bike. Got a couple questions here. Rich on Two Wheels is asking you guys, what's your favorite bike to work on and what is your least favorite bike to work on? Don't hold punches, fellas.
All right. Favorite bike to work on is one that comes into the shop regularly for the service intervals.
There you go.
Those are quick. Least favorite bike to work on is the one you haven't touched in 2 years.
Man, yeah.
You just you ride them, you put them away, you let them sit. And they just fall into a state of disrepair. I mean, there's certain manufacturers out there that are a little bit more finicky with the proprietary pieces and the linkages that require modified tools to get shoulder bolts out and stuff like that. But yeah, so that they're all just nice little challenges throughout the day, little small wins that Matt gets to take home at the end of it, right? So
Matt's face is like, hey.
Yeah. That was a really good answer from Morgan.
that was good. That was really good. All right, guys. Got a couple more questions that came in while you guys are asking. MTV Granddad says he actually has the EDC in his pump. I got the EDC in my pump, he says. Okay, this one's coming in from Scott Chafin. Scott Chafin is asking, is a wireless derailleur worth the money in your opinion?
Yeah, so we were a bit prepared for this one. This one's an interesting one. I'd say it certainly depends on the individual and depends on what you're after in your derailleur. If you're going cost to cost, GX to GX, I would say no, it is not worth it because you could literally do 3 new GX mechanical derailleurs for every one access derailleur. There in the GX platform. However, if you are comparing the GX Access to, let's say, an X01 or an XX1 mechanical derailleur, right? Similar price points there. In my opinion, the Access is worth a shot. It is worth a try. I've been running it on my bike now for over a year, and I absolutely love it. It's as far as the precision and everything goes, it's unbeatable. But those super precise shifts, they require a little bit more attention to keep them that precise. So myself, tinker with my bike a lot, so that doesn't bother me. So that does, I think, bother some folks out there. So
and you've only run out of battery twice or 3 times now, so it really hasn't even been that big of a deal with the electronic stuff for him. So
not too bad. Not too bad.
It's pretty slick though. It really, it's pretty nice. Yeah.
It probably just feels good too to have one less wire on the bike. Just one less thing. Just feel
clean. They look clean.
Yeah, access. If you can do an access dropper post and access shifter, I would do it. It looks so good.
Dang, there you go from the Wrench and Roll boys. So Scott Chafin, if you are listening in live or if you're listening in on iTunes or Spotify, the boys here are saying if you can, go for it. They love it. Debbie Crow basically says, producer Debbie, what's happening? Good to see you out here on the show. She says, Summit is notorious for loosening any bolt possible on your bike. So might be a good place to pull up.
That's a really good point. And it's something that I think a lot of people overlook is just the constant rechecking of torque values on all of your bike's bolts. Start at the stem, work your way back to the rear axle. Most manufacturers are going to have an FAQ page where you can find all the torque values. And it's something that I encourage people try to work into their post-ride or pre-ride routine. If not every ride, every other ride, because the last thing you want to have happen is a shoulder bolt back out a little bit. It loses its strength and shears off. We see broken rear triangles. We unfortunately today saw the result of one with a broken collarbone. So bikes, they take a beating and we demand a lot out of them. And I think we take for granted the stress that these little 5 mil bolts put up with day to day. So definitely figure out a way to get those torque values checked for sure.
That's a great tip. And like you said, most of the companies have the facts on the torque values for you guys to do it in pre-ride or post-ride checks. That's a great tip. Debbie, thank you for bringing that up. MTB Rad Dad says, I love my GX axis. So he has one, which is great. Guys, I have a question for it. So the stem on my bike was really loose, right? I could feel it when I pulled up on the handlebars. I could feel like there was some play in there. So I started to tighten it down and actually cracked that little plastic thing on the top. So it made me realize that's too much. So I changed the little cap on the top and I was able to tighten it down, but I tightened it down so much that I could barely steer, right? Is that meant to be not tight? How is that? I mean, this is probably really basic and I'm sorry for the question.
No, it's a good question. So essentially that top bolt, right, often a 5 mil, that is just loading your headset bearings. So each headset manufacturer would have a different torque value for what they say that needs to be cinched down to. So it does not need to be, you will not hit a hard stopping point, right? If you hit a hard stopping point, that essentially means you've compressed your bearings and like you potentially experienced, then the bars don't turn at all. So it's a bit of a fine-tuned balance. You want to get that snug enough so that your headset's not loose, but not snug enough that it's not moving. And now something that goes hand in hand with this is that bolt that's putting downward pressure is not holding your stem to your fork. What's holding your stem to your fork is the pinch bolts on the side. So those need to be tight, right? Most stems do have the torque values printed on them. It's somewhere likely between like 5 and 9 newton meters, depending on size of the bolt and material. But yeah, something to keep in mind. So truly, again, headset manufacturers has the torque, or just kind of you got to feel it out. A little bit of experience, and
that's awesome, Matt. Thank you very much. I wonder how many other people were in the same boat as me trying to figure that out.
It happens.
It seemed like a little fine balance. Like too much is way too much, and too loose was fell loose. But yeah, it's the ones on the side that'll keep it there. So thank you for that. We got a shout out here from Derek. Man, he says, best service around. Shout out to Matt, Morgan, and Mark. Reach out to the Wrench and Roll for service. You won't be disappointed. Another great testimony.
Derek.
I'm telling you guys, this is what I'm hearing when I'm out in the trails. People are loving your guys' service there at Wrench and Roll. And there's another one there from Derek. MTB Manny has a question for you guys, and I wanted to bring that up for you. He is asking, let's see where to go. Sorry, I just lost it. I had it right here. MTB Manny says, he says, sorry, everybody. I had it. I lost it. I hit it with my finger and I lost it. Oof. I'll get back to it. But yeah, he's got a question for you guys that I wanted to make sure we cover. Where'd you go, Manny? Here you are. Found it. Okay, MTV Manny says, how to get your bike to feel less twitchy, stem length or height?
Both. Right. It's a combination of a lot of things when the bike's feeling twitchy, right? I mean, it could be a head tube angle. If you think about your head tube angle, as you move your stem up, it comes in, and as you move it down, it gets a little bit longer. So depending on where you are in your stack height, you might want to make an adjustment, but it could also be cleat position. It could be saddle position. All those contact points are going to affect where forces are applied to those handlebars. And that's truly gonna determine, in conjunction with geo and sag and all that other stuff, like how twitchy the bike feels. So I have a bit of a background in bike fit. In a past life, I was a fitter, probably doing 3 or 4 a week. Full range of motion assessments. It got real weird, laying people on the massage table, bending them all up, and then translating those measurements to the bike. And we saw a lot of value in that. So I mean, if you really have issues with the bike being twitchy, I would say find me on the weekend. Let's get a couple laps. Let's make some in-lap adjustments or post-lap adjustments, and then go do that same lap. And we'll just take these small changes and make successive approximations towards the target bike feel. And that's going to be the best way to do it. There's truly not one tried and true formula for that, really, because there's just so many variables that can play into that.
Sounds like a good process of elimination. Yeah, go ahead, Matt.
Well, in that example, you could lower your stem, right? Lower your stack height, because you don't need to buy another stem to do that. So at least try it, right? Put your headset spacers on top of your stem and really snug it up and give that a try. And getting yourself closer to the front wheel might help a little bit. So to directly answer, I would say try it before purchasing a stem. If you don't notice the difference, you can always move your headset spacers back. But tinkering with your bike like that, no matter what you're trying to achieve, I would encourage. There's a lot of fine-tuning adjustments out there that you do find within these fits. But if you're confident with the wrench, you can do those swaps yourself.
Nice. Yeah, that's just that 5mm bolt, right? Take that out, loosen up the side bolts, and then put those spacers on the top and see how that feels. That's good.
There's some dramatic changes that can be made in handling for sure.
For sure.
Yeah, it's crazy. Everything is in millimeters. Literally, it changes everything. That is nuts. And then, Morgan, what you were saying, is that like the rad that you're talking about? How you get the fit for the bike based on like your arm length and leg length and all that stuff?
Yep. So I was using the Specialized system, specifically the BG Fit program. I graduated most of their courses in that. And so, yeah, it's a full range of motion assessment. So I look at hip flexion, potential leg length differences, shoulder rotation, all of these things, past injury history even, right? So all of those things are going to affect how you ride the bike. And a lot of us have these preconceptions of what we think we should look like on the bike, right? Like we just saw the Tour de France with everybody in these full aero positions with these negative stems, and like they're all in these tuck positions. And that's great for those guys because they are super flexible, right? But for most of us, that's just not the case. So, to me, it doesn't really matter how you look on the bike as long as you're comfy on it, because that comfortability is going to result in more saddle time. More saddle time is going to get you the results that you want, right? Like you can't put down watts if you can't breathe. So being all bent over and all this other stuff, like it might not be it might not be the best thing for you. But yes, we take a look at like body structure and things like flexibility and put it to use on the bike. And that's something that we still do. I've done a couple fits since we started Wrench and Roll, and we've seen some really positive results from some guys with that were having some hand numbness, foot numbness, things like that. And it's since subsided with very little invested, right? No new parts, as Matt was saying. We just changed stack height, we changed lever position, cleat position, saddle position, things like that. And guys are way more comfy out on the bike. So,
dude, that's huge. That's huge. If you're out there listening to this right now, give them a call. That is very, very cool, because I've ridden with a lot of my neighbors out here, and they'll get like hand numbness, like pain in their shoulder, things like that. And I'm sure it's just like minor tweaking here and there, but it's just don't have the knowledge as to where to start. So that is awesome. And if anyone's out there and they're watching, there's a YouTube channel called Joy of Bike, and they were actually trying to figure out what people's rads are and fit them in the right size bike. And one of the stars of the show, his name is Alex. He's 5'9", and he ended up taking 2 bikes out, and he ended up on a small of the bike. But the manufacturer said at 5'9", he'd be between a medium and a large, but his rad actually measured out to fitting the small, which was interesting, because it seems like a lot of the bike companies are just kind of making this like big dramatic overlay. If you're this height, then you're this bike, when it's so individualized, which is great that you brought that up, Morgan. And that is all the questions that I had that came through on the Instagram. Anything else, you guys, that you would say for the folks that are listening? What are some of the tips that you would potentially give to people to just care for their bike on a daily basis?
So right off the bat, clean bike is half a bike. Clean your bike, not with hose and water. But keep your stuff clean. After cleaning your bike, chain lube goes a long way. There's a ton of different products out there. A lot of them work really good. A lot of them have different cycles as far as like how long they last. So depending on what you're using, try to pay attention to that. Tire pressure, right? So pre-ride checklist, check your tire pressure, check your bolts, right? Get yourself that multi-tool. But that's huge. Most folks around here, I would say, are riding anywhere from like 23 to 28 PSI. Like that's your Greer Bale. So certainly I would encourage folks to try either end of that spectrum. There's a pretty dramatic difference with 5 PSI and mountain bike tire. So that's kind of fun to tinker with. And then, just try to get yourself on a maintenance schedule. It goes a long way, just like your car. Doing oil change in your car. If you don't do it, your motor's going to blow up. If you don't change your fork oil, it's going to feel really bad and your hands are going to hurt.
Yeah, no, that's great. That's good. Morgan, what would you say to that as far as tips go to keep the bike running good for most folks?
I say ride frequently. It doesn't have to be monster rides. You don't have to get out and put down 17 at Greer. You can cruise the block. Just keep everything moving, keep everything cycling, right? Like the stuff sits, it doesn't like to sit, right? The other thing too is that like the pros, they're riding their bikes so often and they've got all this factory support, they never see these declines or these dips in component performance, right? But a lot of us, we get busy. We've got kids, we work, we get lazy. It's 100 degrees. We don't want to ride. So the bikes will sit, and they'll sit for weeks at a time. And so it's one of those things where even if you have to get out and just cruise a lap around your block, like do that, cycle your suspension, grab those brakes, just keep those fluids moving.
Nice. Good. Great tips. And when it starts to rain outside and everyone's more of a break question, and I realize we're coming up on time already, but you guys, this information is so valuable. And thank you.
It's all good. You got more beers.
Thank you again for doing this. When you hear people coming down the trail when their brakes are wet and it sounds like an orchestra of like kids who don't know how to play musical instruments, is that just the brake pads, or is there something going on there that could be avoided?
When when it's wet, there's nothing really that can be avoided. There's different brake pad materials out there, some of which are more susceptible to noise when it's wet, right? A metallic brake pad is often going to screech a little louder than like an organic or resin brake pad in those wet conditions. But ultimately, it's wet, it's going to make noise. Grit and grime sticking to your rotors and your pads a little bit more. So there's a whole bunch of different factors that happen, but nothing to be alarmed about, truly. As long as you have braking, right, that's most important.
Exactly. It's just the train coming to the station, just letting people know you're arriving.
Coming in. You're trying to hide, not breaking in the corners, and it's like calling you out.
Yeah, keeps you honest for sure. Yeah.
Right.
You don't want squeaking if it's hot and dry. If it's squeaking when it's hot and dry, something else is wrong.
Yeah, come see us if that's the case.
Yeah. So there's been a couple of riders I've seen where they're just coasting, not even pushing their brakes, and it's squeaking. What are some of the things that could be?
Well, truly it could be, right, your rotor rubbing your brake pads, right, caliper alignment. And if that noise is ultimately coming from the brake, which can be tough when you're riding a bike to truly pin down where noise is coming from. There's a lot of moving parts on bikes. Mm-hmm. There's a lot of places that can make noise. I would say the first three, places that fingers get pointed at is like your bottom bracket, your headset, and your brakes potentially. But if it's squeaking like that consistently, it's got to be adjustment. Truly. So take a peek, look down the barrel, look in between your brake pads. You should see a light on either side of your rotor. And that fine tuning of caliper alignment can be challenging, can be difficult. It gets easier with experience. Give it a go.
Nice call. Yeah. If not, give the boys a call. Hey, what's up? Colorado Kid is in the house. He just did a Southern California tour. Colorado Kid says, "What if you're a bad writer? Is there a part that will help with that?" He's asking for friends.
Yeah, I gotta think it's your post-ride recovery drink. You're probably on the wrong program. You should get on something like a PBR or a Wolf Pup or something, But no, there's nothing for more talent. I've been looking for it for the last 20 years, and I'm still searching for that pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. So you can come ride with me and my team, Team Midpack. We're all running out of talent on a daily basis. So you'd be more than welcome.
There you go, Colorado Kid, Team Midpack member, newest member of the Colorado Kid. If you guys are ever up in the Northern California area, look him up. Super good guy, and check out his channel too. Awesome content. MTB123 John says, "You guys are awesome. Thank you for the help at Snow Valley. They are great mechanics." Yeah. Awesome. What's the story behind that?
We just help so many people. Everybody. I truly. We do everything right. We see a lot of derailleur failures. We see a lot of brake bleeds in the moment, cooked brakes, things like that. It could have been almost one of anything.
Yeah, dropper levers, right? People getting down and their dropper levers getting a little jacked up. We see that pretty often at the bike park. But yeah, we met a lot of really rad people that weekend at Stone Valley with the Transcend crew. So
it was a rad day for sure.
Yeah, that was a great day. Thank you, MTB123 John. What is that, like the fifth testimony on here tonight? That is awesome. Adam Miller is giving Colorado Kid a hard time for that question right there. Really, Joe? So, with that being said, you guys let everybody know. I obviously have it here scrolling on the screen, but is there anything that you guys would like to say in closing to the folks that are out there watching the live or in the future here at iTunes and Spotify about bike maintenance or even coming in to see you guys?
I would say don't hesitate to reach out. We're available, Monday through Friday, 9 to 6 officially. But if you've got questions, we're happy to help out. If you see a good deal and you want to run it by somebody, never hesitate to ask us those questions. Truly use this as a resource. That's part of what we wanted to do in building the community and educating people. So let us know if there's any way that we can help you, and don't hesitate to come see us. We're never too busy for you. even during the short weeks with race weeks. If we're at the races and we look pinned, believe me, we've got spot for one more. So don't hesitate to give us a shout.
That is awesome. And what would you guys say is your biggest differentiator? I think I already know the answer to the question because I've been talking with you guys, but for the folks that are listening, what is Wrench and Roll's biggest differentiator than taking your bike to the local bike shop?
You can stay in your pajamas, right?
Yeah,
we see a lot of people in PJs.
On.
Yeah. No, I think truly it's the quick turnarounds. It's the same day in and out. It's the 2-day turnaround on a full Pro Tune. We just had a trail dog sled in, right? We got 2 of them out same day. Waiting on parts for the last one, but we're gonna get that crew back out there ripping for the weekend, right? So we're pumped on that.
And we're shooting for that experience, right? That's our goal, is the experience. So whether you're dealing one-on-one with Morgan or myself, right? Where it's just us two, with no other customers in the store. So that's a unique experience, and
Absolutely.
we're trying to keep that going. So
that's awesome, you guys. I hear convenience with staying in your pajamas because you guys got that van. You guys can just come pick up the bike if you're in the area, or if you're traveling into the area, they can pick the bike up from you while you stay in your PJs and drink your coffee or have your post-ride drinks while your bike's getting worked on. I hear efficacy. I hear basically you guys are, I mean, how many testimonies did we get on how many bikes you guys have fixed while we've been on this live, and knowing the wealth of experience that you guys come from Intense to Jensen USA and the history that goes back through all that and all your experience there, and then breaking out on your own and just not looking back. So convenience and experience and trust is all there when you guys are looking at Wrench and Roll. Like the boys said, give them a text. You got the number here. It's 951-215-6053. Or hit them up on Instagram at wrench_and_roll. And anything else you guys want to add to it before we sign off for the evening?
No, just a big thank you to the community. We felt a really warm welcome when we started, and we continue to feel that when we see all you guys out at the races. And we're looking forward to many more years helping you guys out. So thank you.
That is awesome. Yeah, ladies and gentlemen, the 2 guys that make up Wrench and Roll, Mr. Matt and Morgan. Colorado Kid lastly says, yeah, damn, bum they're in SoCal now. Otherwise, I'd be making a call right now. Colorado Kid, it's not too late. You can text them and then see if that's something that they can do from afar, because there is that virtual world. They might be able to help you. MTB Rad Dad's here. Oh, Craig is in the house too. Just a couple people that I want to give shout outs to. Always like to say what's up to everybody. But with that being said, if you have any bike issues or you have any bike questions, or like the boys said, if you're looking at a bike and you want to run it past somebody with knowledge, give these guys a call and they'll be able to help you out. And anything that you need mechanically, they can help you there as well. So Matt, Morgan, thank you again for jumping on the Segment Podcast. It's great to see you guys. I look forward to seeing you out there. And I know if my bike needs some help, I'll be giving you guys a call.
You got it, man. We're here for you, Mark.
All right. Thank you so much, boys. See you all soon. Have a great night, everybody. Thanks for jumping on.